Tonight on NewsWatch, the Affordable Care Act. President Obama campaigns for the law that keeps coming under fire.
Plus, graduating without debt. Meet college students who say it can be done.
And when you do it for the least of these, the powerful story of a ministry that helps widows and orphans who have no safety net. All this and more tonight on NewsWatch. The president defends Obamacare as its critics work to strike it down. Good evening, everyone. I'm George Thomas.
And I'm Lori Johnson. It's been 3 years since Obamacare became the law of the land, and the law is losing its luster. So the president is trying to change that and prevent a repeal. CBN News White House correspondent Jennifer Wishon joins us from our Washington bureau. Jennifer, there really wasn't very much debate about the Affordable Health Care Act, it seems, before it was passed.
Yeah, well, there certainly is now, Lori, and that's because, as with all complicated pieces of legislation, the devil is in the details. And even the government is finding it difficult to implement this law. President Obama worked today to address concerns by highlighting some of the more popular parts. President Obama was introduced by a Maryland woman who was reimbursed by her insurance company thanks to Obamacare. The law requires insurers to spend at least 80 cents of every dollar on medical care or refund the difference. Because of the new requirement, $500 million in rebates will go to nearly 9 million people. It's something the president is drawing attention to in an effort to boost his law's image.
Affordable health care is not some privilege just for the few. It's a basic right that everybody should be able to enjoy.
His efforts came one day after the House voted for the 38th time to eliminate, cut funding, or scale back the law. Already the mandate that businesses provide coverage for their workers has been put on hold because new regulations made it too difficult for companies to comply.
For example, there is the employer mandate, the requirement that businesses with 50 or more full-time equivalent employees provide health insurance or pay penalties. That was a 3.5-page provision that got turned into a 144-page regulation with 44 definitions.
One study predicts Obamacare will put more than 3 million jobs in jeopardy. Even union bosses who once supported the law are now calling on Congress to fix it. In a letter to Democrat leaders, they write, "The Affordable Care Act would shatter not only our hard-earned health benefits, but destroy the foundation of the 40-hour work week that is the backbone of the American middle class. We have a problem," they write. "You need to fix it."
This is going to be a big lose-lose-lose for a lot of union members, and I think that if there isn't a resolution in Congress, if they don't reopen the law, a lot of them are going to question why they're paying all these dues to leadership that doesn't really represent their interests.
For now, confusion and uncertainty about the law is stifling economic growth.
So there's a lot of heartburn right now and a lot of nervousness about what exactly the increased costs will mean for their bottom line.
President Obama maintains that Americans who like their insurance plan can keep it, but that's not turning out to be the case. According to a study of 11,000 plans on the individual market, less than 2% comply with Obamacare. That means 98% of plans must change, or the people using them must find new plans. And the Congressional Budget Office now estimates Obamacare will result in 7 million Americans being dropped from their employers' health plans and forced into new health exchanges set up by the law.
We're spending a lot of money in helping relatively few people. In many ways, it probably would have been simpler and cheaper just to give everybody money to buy insurance.
President Obama today acknowledged implementing this law won't be easy. Creating uniformity among insurance carriers across 50 states is a tall task. But Lori, he says he's determined to, quote, blow through the challenge.
Well, Jennifer, as the law continues to take fire, what are the political implications for Democrats?
Well, Lori, Obamacare is definitely going to be an issue in the midterm elections next year. Democrats will point out that the employer mandate has been delayed, hoping that will help at the polls. Republicans, on the other hand, are going to be working hard to show that this law is bad for health care and bad for the economy. For the president, it's very important because, remember, this is his legacy, the law he'll be remembered for. So, Lori, President Obama is going to do everything he can to try and make sure it succeeds.
All right, Jennifer, thanks a lot.
A House committee is continuing hearings into IRS targeting of the Tea Party and other conservative groups. In the meantime, the Treasury Department told Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley at least 4 politicians had their private information examined improperly by the IRS. And former Delaware Senate candidate Christine O'Donnell says she was one of them. The day she announced her run for the U.S. Senate back in 2010, the government placed a tax lien on O'Donnell's house. The problem is she didn't own the house at the time. The IRS later withdrew the lien, calling it, quote, a computer glitch. But earlier this year, O'Donnell heard from a criminal investigator for the Treasury Department who said her records had been improperly accessed on the day she decided to run.
Republican leaders are opening the door for the children of illegal immigrants to stay in the U.S. Majority Leader Eric Cantor calls it the compassionate thing to do. Democrats say it's a move in the right direction, but it's not enough. They want legislation that also helps millions of other illegal immigrants.
Your local police may be tracking your movements. The American Civil Liberties Union says cops are using special license plate scanners to track cars. They capture images of passing or parked cars, keeping digital records of their location and movement. That information is kept in a database for weeks or even years. Authorities say they use the surveillance system to expose local terrorists, find abducted children, and track drug dealers. The ACLU says it's a violation of privacy, and the records of those not involved in a crime should be deleted.
A school district in Texas announced its decision to drop a controversial student tracking program. CBN News first brought you the controversial story last fall. It was supposed to increase attendance by tracking students' locations through a chip on their ID badges. But it was met with a huge outcry of protest and even a lawsuit. One student was expelled for objecting to the badge based on religious freedom and privacy concerns. Others said it violated their civil liberties. The district said it dropped the program because it was ineffective. A federal judge has blocked a city in Southern California from putting up a memorial for veterans because it includes a cross. The city had agreed to pay $50,000 for the monument. It would include the illustration of a soldier kneeling before a grave topped by a cross. The American Humanist Association argues the monument violates the separation of church and state. The city said the cross was a generic illustration of a grave. In addition to the cross, it includes a flag and an eagle. The case will go to trial October 1st.
Texas Governor Rick Perry signed the state's 20-week abortion ban into law today. Opponents say it is unconstitutional and plan to contest it in court. A Texas woman who is against the law is actually making voodoo dolls of Perry with the slogan that mocks his pro-life stand. She's selling them and donating the money to Planned Parenthood. Perry hasn't responded directly to the reports of the doll, but he did tweet today. He wrote, quote, "I'm proud to have signed HB 2 today and ensure Texas' ongoing commitment to protect life. Thank you to all who #stand for life."
It's another day of scorching heat from America's Northeast to the Midwest. Heat-related illnesses and even wildfires are of major concern. Gary Lane brings us the latest.
Excessive heat is causing high customer demand for electricity in the east. That's leading to overstressed power grids and significant outages. Businesses shut down in Providence, Rhode Island, where 400 customers lost their electricity at the start of the workday.
We had a couple of little flickers, didn't think anything of it, and then all of a sudden there was no electricity.
The power company says an electrical failure in the lines beneath the sidewalk resulted in the outage. Employees at the Beata Home Healthcare office worried about work loss.
I don't know what's left on my computer, and hopefully it's all saved.
Some eastern cities distributed free water and ice, and hospital emergency rooms like this one in Chicago are seeing an increase in heat-related illnesses.
I feel like I'm gonna explode. It's so hot.
Medical experts say ongoing excessive heat can be dangerous to your health because the body doesn't get a chance to cool down. That can lead to high blood pressure, heart failure, and heat stroke. Especially vulnerable? Young children. Their body temperature can rise 3 to 5 times faster than an adult's.
If you are at a playground, take your hand, slide that down. If it's hot for you with the touch, it's too hot for your child to play.
The elderly are also at risk. Free fans are being handed out to them and children in Raleigh, North Carolina. While the priority is to keep people healthy and cool, pets are also a concern.
They're overheated. You need to hose them down. You need to get them to a vet right away.
In the western U.S., it's not just the heat that's raising concerns. Drought is also a worry. A lack of rain is raising the potential for wildfires. The fire season began 2 months earlier because of dry conditions. Thousands of Californians have been ordered to evacuate their homes. A fast-moving wildfire has already consumed 14,000 acres.
The fire behavior you're seeing right now is what we'd typically be seeing in August to September.
This year's wildfire season is on pace to become the deadliest in U.S. history. Gary Lane, CBN News.
The heat wave is making it tough to fight a wildfire about 100 miles east of Los Angeles. So far, 6,000 people have been evacuated. They're grabbing photos and anything else they just can't replace and leaving home fast. The fire spans 35 square miles and is devouring everything in its path. The good news is no deaths have been reported, and a weekend cool down will make it easier to contain the blaze.
Britain's Queen Elizabeth has given her royal stamp of approval to gay marriage. While a formality, it was the last step needed for the bill to become law. It was passed earlier this week by England's House of Lords. It enables gay couples to get married in both civil and religious ceremonies in England and Wales. The law does exempt, however, the Church of England, which opposes the measure, from having to perform the weddings. Coming up, many college graduates struggle for years with student loan debt. However, some are finding a way to get their degree debt-free. And welcome back to the show. A new agreement on student loan rates could help college students this fall. Interest rates doubled on July 1st, but a bipartisan group of senators reached a deal that would offer undergrads applying for new loans a 3.8% interest instead of the current 6.8%. Graduate students would pay 5.4%.
Despite those cuts in interest rates, a college education is becoming more and more expensive. Tuition prices at some schools have gone up as much as 40%. CBN's Ephraim Graham recently met some students who are working hard to avoid going into debt for their degree.
It was very stressful to start.
Christopher Wells is a man on a mission. Earn a degree debt-free.
My first year, my mother had to take money out of the 401k plan. We had a deal, and she said that she would pay the first year at school, but every year after that, I would have to pay for it myself or figure out a way to pay it.
How does he do it? The 20-year-old works summers instead of chilling out. This year, Wells spends 40 hours a week as an intern and waits tables on the weekends. He also lives at home and commutes to class.
I had the opportunity to live on campus, but I could have taken out a loan, but I just chose not to. And that was one of the biggest decisions for me.
And while it hasn't been easy, this honors student is on track to graduate next year with no student loan debt. Many of his classmates won't be able to enjoy the same freedom.
Some of them are, but a lot of them aren't. They just, they're on campus, their parents pay for their tuition, they're kind of just going with the motion, and that's just not me.
The latest figures show student debt in America has climbed to $1 trillion. The average balance, about $23,000. However, some college graduates are looking at more than $100,000 in the red. That debt is even tougher to pay back in today's economy, where most college graduates can't find a job.
So many times I meet people who've got $100,000 spent to get a PhD in, German polka history or something. Oh my gosh, where are they going to get this money back?
Financial expert Dave Ramsey says students must change their thinking when it comes to college.
We've got to break the mindset that in order to be a student, you have to have a student loan. Mm-hmm. Instead, let's go back to the old-fashioned way of paying for it. And you actually can do that. It's difficult, but you can do it. It's called work.
That work actually begins years before even applying for college. Step 1, choose a school you can actually afford, perhaps a community college to get started. Then, look for free money in the form of grants and scholarships.
You've got to apply for scholarships. There's lots of them out there. You've got to take classes on how to take your SAT and ACT so that your scores come up, which qualifies you for more scholarships. And then you get grants. I grant you the right to work while you're in school. WORK has not killed anybody.
And when they make it to campus, watch out for those lifestyle extras like pizzas and parties.
An interesting thing I was reading in state schools the other day is the average college student graduating this last year had $27,900 in student loan debt. And the interesting thing is that's about what they spent over 4 years to live off campus, in an apartment, to eat out, to attend social functions associated with college. And so really those dollars that drove them into debt were not education dollars, they were lifestyle dollars.
A lesson Christopher Wells has already mastered.
My mother always said to me, if you ain't got it, don't get it. So if I don't have it, I'm not gonna get it. If I don't have the cash for it, then I'm not gonna buy it.
Wells doesn't carry a credit card or even a car loan. He still drives his 2001 Chevy his parents gave him back in high school.
You know, life is not all about partying or going out with your friends and stuff. Like, if you want to be successful in life, you have to work, you got to save your money, you have to budget. It's very essential.
Ephraim Graham, CBN News.
Up next, they may be overlooked and forgotten by their own country, but two groups of Christians are working to make a brighter world for these orphans.
Hello? Is this thing on? Hey, kids, do you love games? And do you love discovering things? Well, do ya?
Then you're gonna love this. It's the new free Superbook Kids Bible app. You can play games, watch videos, find answers to your questions, and a whole lot more. The new Superbook Kids Bible app. Free downloads available on iTunes now.
Hope is stirring among many Egyptians with the political changes taking place there, but some aren't happy about the ouster of President Mohamed Morsi, and freedom isn't a certainty.
And in the midst of it all, an often overlooked population in great need. Gary Lane reports how one group of outcasts is surviving with help from American and Egyptian Christians.
The situation, of course, is getting worse. There's a lot of insecurities, instability that's happening in Egypt. It's the weakest and the most vulnerable that suffer the most.
25% of all Egyptians live at or below the poverty level, earning less than $2 per day. Many of them are widows. An estimated 1.7 million Egyptian children are orphans. Nermeen Riyad is the founder of Coptic Orphans, a Washington-based group that reaches out to Egyptian widows and their children.
Once a father passes away, you have nothing. The first step, of course, the children are pulled out of school. You can't afford to send them to school. They become then the child labor, they become the child brides, they become those that are abused, and they grow to perpetuate this poverty.
The widows and orphans are treated as social outcasts. Unlike Americans, Egyptians have no unemployment or Social Security. 31-year-old Naima Wahib's husband, George, died from stomach cancer 4 years ago. She and her 2 children have struggled ever since. They live in a small one-room apartment near the city of Luxor. Saneh, a Christian volunteer, regularly visits Naima and her children.
If Christian children here in Upper Egypt are to have a brighter future, they need an education. 11-year-old Antonio here could barely read late last year, but after 15 sessions with a volunteer from Coptic Orphans, he now can read Bible stories. Go ahead, Antonio.
We started out with just sending money to the children. Then we realized, wait a minute, to really help them, to get them on their feet, we need to focus on education.
A Christian tutor helped 16-year-old Kyrillos get better grades in school. Last year, the school ranked him number 2 in his freshman class. His father, a tailor, died at the age of 38. Today, his sewing machine sits idle in this bedroom. Kyrillos' mother learned skills of her own, but had no money to get started. Caring Christians provided her with the seed money to operate a small hair salon in her home.
Before, I had no social life. I was afraid to go out in public. I didn't have much self-esteem. I talk to people now. I'm a totally different person. I thank God this salon is providing food and clothing, everything we need. At the end of the day, it's the Lord who is providing for us.
15-year-old Iman was only 3 years old when his father died from intestinal bleeding. American Christians donated money to pay his school fees so he could remain in school. They also paid for his mother Faiza's heart surgery. She now does some small sewing jobs to help provide for her family. They live in several rooms of this house, but the landlord wants them to leave. Iman takes volunteer Sana on a tour of the house that Coptic Orphans is building for his family.
Their help has made a big difference. The children would not have been able to continue with school. They are now doing well in their classes. I'm so thankful and grateful to God for the help they've given us.
Iman, Kyrillos, Antonio, and their siblings now have a brighter future because of the help of caring American and Egyptian Christians. Unfortunately, the rise of the Islamists may cause greater persecution against non-Muslims. That may lead to more widows and orphans in the days ahead. Riyadh says many Christians are ready for the next wave of persecution.
Many of the Christians have told me, I'm willing to die for Christ. Literally, and they will be put in such a situation. We want to be more and more ready to prepare and to support and to make the Christians in Egypt stronger and stronger. Actually, Christ gives us an offer to work beside him. And to me, that I think it's the greatest honor.
Gary Lane, CBN News, Luxor, Egypt.
Well, up next, you might call it an extreme makeover, but you will not believe what some folks will do to turn back time. And finally, today, the eternal quest for perfect skin has led to all sorts of interesting treatments and inventions.
But the latest fountain of youth find may be the most interesting yet. Dermatologists in Tokyo have developed a unique treatment to rejuvenate your skin, a snail facial. 3 garden snails crawling across your face, leaving a trail of slime. The slime reportedly contains proteins and antioxidants that help moisturize and remove dead skin.
The mucus of the snails is similar to the hyaluronic acid. So some people may feel this skin is getting softer.
These are not your typical garden snails, though. They're raised on organic vegetables, kept in air-conditioned rooms, and they only work a few minutes a day. The treatment lasts 5 minutes and costs $250. And while this is the latest beauty craze in Japan, there are no scientific studies yet that prove the snail facial actually works.
All the guys in the control room here are just going like this.
Crazy.
Unbelievable.